How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Open line Friday, 877-973-7425. Text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, for all of your needs online for the show notes, the social media. I'm sure I'll be cooking this weekend on my pizza oven. My kids want pizzas. You'll see those fine pictures. I have breaking news for you. Get ready. Breaking news. Spirit Airlines intends to cease operations imminently. Not immediately, but imminently. According to CNBC, the airline is beginning wind-down operations because it is out of operating capital. This is actually a very big deal here. This is the president saying as well that the government has given a final bailout proposal for Spirit Airlines as liquidation looms. Talks with bondholders for a government bailout this week have not yielded a deal. The Trump administration last month offered a $500 million loan that could have given the government a 90% stake in the Florida-based airline. If we could do it, we'd do it, but only if it's a good deal this weekend because they haven't gotten a deal looking at it. I said I'd like to save the jobs, but we'll have an announcement sometime today. We gave them a final proposal. According to the president, Spirit declined to comment on liquidation plans. The airline's lawyer, Marshall Hubner, told a bankruptcy court in New York on April 23rd that Spirit's cash is not going to last for very much longer. The carrier is in its second bankruptcy in less than a year and now has the added challenge of the fuel price spike. According to CNBC, United Airlines said its carrier is preparing to support Spirit customers and employees if the carrier shuts down and strands crew and passengers. This is breaking news. CNBC saying that the shutdown of Spirit Airlines is imminently upon us. The Justice Department has also released a statement, quote, this is an old statement from the Justice Department asking for its deal back from 2024. It abandoned JetBlue, having abandoned its $3.8 billion acquisition of Spirit Airlines because of the Justice Department under the Biden administration. So put this in perspective. The Biden Justice Department said that Spirit Airlines and JetBlue could not merge. Both airlines said financially they needed to merge because they were struggling. The Biden administration told them they could not merge, and now Spirit Airlines is on the verge of shutting down. This has just hit the wires from the Wall Street Journal as I am talking. Quote, Spirit Airlines is preparing to cease operations. The ailing budget airline has been hoping to finalize a $500 million lifeline from the government. The discount carrier hasn't been able to get sufficient support between certain bondholders and the government to secure its funding. Spirit has been in talks with the Trump administration, but there have been disagreements inside the Trump administration on whether and how to fund the bailout. Absent the government bailout, Spirit is running out of cash, so the airline is moving forward with plans to liquidate its aircraft fleet and shut down. People familiar with the situation said it wasn't immediately clear what the specific timing of that might look like. I feel bad for Spirit Airlines. I feel bad for its employees. I feel bad for its pilots and its flight attendants and its ground crews. Feel bad for its mechanics and engineers, 14,000 employees. But I've also got to tell you, as I've said before, that Spirit also has damaged its own reputation where a lot of people don't want to fly Spirit because it's stigmatized by the reputation that Spirit itself allowed to be gathered around it. It's like a Spirit Halloween, but for aviation. And that's unfortunate. They wanted to mimic the strategy of Ryanair in Europe. Americans got outraged at being nickeled and dimed for everything, but it was cheap. And a lot of poorer and middle-class people were willing to fly Spirit Airlines because they wanted super cheap tickets. As Spirit went ultra discount, Delta has gone more and more luxury and expensive, adding premium class seats, raising prices, reducing amenities for people not buying the premium tickets. Spirit stayed rock bottom, but you had to pay if you wanted to put a bag on the plane. You had to pay if you wanted to pay per ticket. You had to pay if you wanted a bottle of water. And people were willing to put up with it for cheap flights. But then the fights and the other things that have stigmatized Spirit, the jokes made about Spirit, it could have worked to overcome that branding. But I think a lot of people got put off by the airline who were willing to pay a little more for a better travel experience than they got at Spirit. We'll see what happens. But this is a perfect segue into what I was going to talk about anyway. The grifters grifting. In the Biden administration, the ideological purity of a lot of the grifters in that administration, they insisted that you couldn't merge these airlines because it would reduce competition. And the airlines insisted, we know our industry better than you, and we're going to go out of business if you don't let us merge. No, they said, they were smarter. The technocrats were smarter. And those technocrats refused to allow the merger, and the result is an airline is about to completely shut down and sell its assets because of the Biden administration. And by the way, you should know it was Lena Khan, the Biden administration, who refused to allow the merger. And Lena Khan is someone that J.D. Vance has touted as someone he would welcome into a presidential administration because he's agreed with her on this sort of stuff. And look what's happened. 14,000 people are going to lose their jobs because the technocrats within the government decided they knew better than the people in the aviation industry. And then the grifters in the Biden administration fundraised off of this, that they were standing up to big business. They were standing up for the little guy. It's not really standing up for the little guy when the little guy is now going to have to pay higher prices to travel because Spirit Airlines has gone out of business. But the grifters in the Biden administration fundraised. It's like the grifters today out attacking Brian Kemp in Georgia for not calling a special session of the legislature. Never mind he's not allowed to. Never mind the laws of the state and the federal court precedent precludes the governor of Georgia from shutting down an election because the votes are already being cast. He can't do it. Erickson, what do you know? Well, I know the laws of Georgia because I'm an elections lawyer in the state. The grifters grifting on both sides are bad. Look at Tucker Carlson. I have more Substack subscribers than Tucker Carlson has subscribers. Didn't know that. I assumed he had many. He doesn't. Someone hacked his site and was able to get the information. He has far less people subscribing to him than subscribe to me. But he gets all of his clicks because you know how? Twitter. The views he gets on Twitter, millions of views on Twitter. Do you know what a view is on Twitter? 3 seconds. If you're scrolling through Twitter and you pause on a video that's playing for 3 seconds, you're a view. Turns out he doesn't have a lot, but he has disproportionate influence because people thought he had a lot. Now they know he's got fewer than me. You know, one of the funny things in life these days is in radio. I've got several million people who listen to me across the country on radio. I have more listeners listening to my radio program than either CNBC or CNN or MSNBC have people listening to their programs. But because people think of radio as dying and outdated and no one pays attention to it, you know, there's a big survey of Americans out right now. It turns out that most Americans still watch TV, local TV, and listen to radio. They don't actually listen to podcasts. The elites do. The elites, they subscribe to podcasts. But of the American people who are not post-grads who live in urban enclaves, they're listening to local radio still. They're not listening to podcasts. They're listening to streaming music, but they're listening to talk radio. They're listening to their local newscast. They're listening to their local nightly news. They're not what the elite are. And yet the elite, they have always, even when Rush Limbaugh was around and talk radio was much bigger than it is now, the elite in the nation ignored Rush Limbaugh, who had 16 million people listening to him because they didn't listen to him. They listened to NPR. So they assumed that Rush Limbaugh was not that influential. They didn't listen to talk radio. They watched MSNBC. So they thought MSNBC was influential. I not only have more subscribers to my daily email than Tucker Carlson has on his platform, I have more listeners on a daily basis than MSNBC or MS Now has. And yet MS Now thinks itself somehow relevant because it's got a TV set and cameras and gets politicians on. I don't have politicians come on my show with very few exceptions. Now, my local audience at WSB in Atlanta, my flagship station, I'll interview Chris Carr today because it's a broadcast station and they have obligations. There's an election and I want people to get to know the candidates. But my listeners tend to get mad at me when I have guests on the show because it's me and them talking to each other. You would never know about the mass listenership that I have because the media thinks talk radio is irrelevant, but they did when Rush was around. They pay attention to Tucker Carlson because they see his clips go viral on Twitter. They don't understand what a view is on Twitter is 3 seconds. So they say, oh my gosh, this guy's getting millions. Well, nobody knows what he says. It's just them scrolling through Twitter. It's wild to watch, though, how this is covered. And so the grifters come out and the grifters build clout because they have numbers. You know, some of the largest accounts out there, their accounts are filled with bots. But oh my gosh, they have 1 million Twitter followers. Yeah, they have 1 million Twitter followers from Pakistan who work overnight and don't actually pay attention to them. They generate no buzz. No one's ever heard of these people. I have to be careful how I say it because to some degree it sounds like I'm jealous and I'm really not. I've got like 3 million listeners to this radio program. And people tune in here and they stick around and the audience grows. And to some degree, I can fly under the radar and get away with stuff that others can't because there's no microscope on my show like there is on the people who get the 3 million views on Twitter and they're only 3 seconds apiece. But what I see is the grifting out there and the grifters who build their clout buying followers on social media and building clout within the Republican and Democratic Party to drive policies that are bad. And on the Democratic Party side, the grifters on the Democratic Party side advanced a policy to shut down a merger between Spirit and JetBlue, and they fundraised off of how they were standing up to corporate America, and now a whole lot of Americans are not going to be able to get cheap tickets to Las Vegas to go out and hang out or to Disney or wherever they want to go because Spirit Airlines is imminently going out of business because of what Joe Biden did. And the Democrats think that's a good thing, by the way. The Democrats actually cheered on. Elizabeth Warren cheered on the Biden administration blocking the merger of Spirit and JetBlue. On the Republican side, you have the same sort of people cheering on bad policies. You have the grifters out there today fundraising on they're going to stand up to Brian Kemp in Georgia because he won't shut down an election that's already underway. Never mind that he can't because the laws of the state of Georgia won't let him. Never mind that. Send us money and we'll fight him. You know what? So I've been toying with this idea. I think I want to start a super PAC because I am so tired of the grifters taking advantage of you people. Maybe we should start a PAC and have it listener funded, and we can find good candidates and vet the candidates and send them money instead of relying on the grifters and hold ourselves transparent and accountable because I'm so tired of the grifters taking advantage of you people. Finding candidates who can't win general elections, who have no desire to be competent candidates, who are just all noise and no substance. The grifters play on your emotions. There's no logic. There's no reason. They scratch the itch of your ear. We're seeing this on both sides now. It's headed towards horrible public policy. On both sides, it's headed towards horrible public policy. One of the worst public policies being that in the private sector in an arm's length transaction, we would prohibit 2 airlines from merging on the argument that airfare would go up if they merged. And now airfare is going to go up because the cheap airfare carrier can't stay in business. But hey, somebody somewhere made a lot of money by blocking a merger, and now you are going to be paying the price through higher tickets. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very happy to have you on the program. Now, we got other stuff we got to talk about today as well. Can I just say real quick, Thomas Massie, I've always been a defender of Thomas Massie until this year he seems to have gone off the rails. And Thomas Massie is now sending out mail pieces telling people how often he supports Donald Trump's policies in Congress. the man who has actively denounced Donald Trump, attacked Donald Trump, spread Epstein conspiracy theories about Donald Trump, is running mail pieces in his district saying how often he sides with Donald Trump. It's just wild to see. I'm kind of at the point where I think it's time for Thomas Massie to go away. He's allied himself with anti-Semites, with Democrats, with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, is going to be on, or was on yesterday, Tucker Carlson's podcast, which is kind of funny in and of itself. It's like the same 10 people interviewing each other all the time. Relatedly, the Charlie Kirk's bodyguard has now filed a defamation suit against Candace Owens. You got the wife of the president of France filed a defamation suit against her. Now the bodyguard for Charlie Kirk has filed a defamation suit against her. I was at a Braves game the other night, was talking to a guy who's got a mutual friend, and he wasn't sure about Tyler Robinson. He asked me, do you really think he did? I was like, why are you listening to the Candace Owens of the world? I mean, the guy's own family is going to testify against him. It's not that complicated. It is listening. I say this lovingly to all of you. If you have doubts about Charlie Kirk's assassination, you've consumed media that's rotted your brain, and you don't know it. It was his family gun found on at the site. It was he who confessed to his transgender partner. He confessed to his parents. He is in trial right now. His parents and his transgender partner will be witnesses for the prosecution. If you have doubts about Tyler Robinson having killed Charlie Kirk, you have consumed media that has poisoned your brain, and you don't even realize it. And that's how bad it is. I don't fault you. You've chosen to put your trust in people who have abused your trust, who are now being sued. If you doubt Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, you've been indoctrinated poisonously. You've been brainwashed poisonously to have those doubts. It is well documented. And if you don't think it is, you're listening to poisonous voices who've rotted your brain. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm can't clean up brain rot, but it can clean up noxious smells like when sulfurous odor, if Candace Owen were to walk in the room, it can wipe out those odors and so many more. In fact, you got a money-back guarantee on the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them and save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, E-R-I-C-K, the number 3, no space. You save $200. They get rid of dust and pollen floating in the air. They get rid of bacteria and viruses, 99.9% of bacteria and viruses. They generate plasma that flows through the device. When the air comes through, it hits the bacteria and viruses, kills them. But then it generates ozone that wipes out odors. I've used the Eden Pure Thunderstorm in hotel rooms. I've used it in rental cars. I've been in hotels with fireplaces that used them to get rid of the smoky odor, and it just works. It generates ozone. Ozone's like odor bleach, and it works. So you can get 3 of them and save $200. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code ERIC3, E-R-I-C-K3. They're very small. They're portable. You can keep it in your travel bag. I do with me, and it just works to wipe out odors. EdenPureDeals.com. Discount code ERIC3. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. 877-973-7425 is the phone number. Chris has been waiting very patiently. Chris, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, thank you for having me, Eric. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I just wanted to say your segment yesterday where you talked about suffering and Derek Thomas and his book on Job. There is a great quote by Soren Kierkegaard that he says that life must be lived forward, but can only be understood backwards.
Oh, that is a good
And
quote.
I thought when it comes to suffering, that's so true. We don't get to see the good as we move forward, but when we look back and we remember, we can see God's hand through all of it.
Yeah, look, I hope people take that to heart because it's true. And it really is something I think people don't really appreciate in how, I don't know, the life plays itself out. You know, we talk about hindsight is 20/20, and that's kind of it. That you got to be able to look back on life and history and how the world has played itself out to be able to react to it and to understand it and appreciate it. You never see the blessings really immediately in many cases. You recognize them later in a lot of cases. And so, yeah, look, Chris, thank you very much for being so patient to make that point. The hindsight in this stuff is so important in life, to look back and see how things happened and how they were meant to be. And oftentimes, particularly when things go bad in life, you can't, when things are going bad, realize that, oh, this was actually a good thing. And sometimes you never, in hindsight, see it as a good thing. But many times you get later in life, you're like, that was actually a good thing. Had that bad thing not happened, this good thing would not be here. And a lot of people I don't know that they have the emotional maturity to really understand and appreciate that. 877-973-7425. So there is a movement now to get Scott Jennings off CNN. Scott Jennings is like the only really great conservative on CNN. Peter Meyer has actually been great. I really like Peter Meyer, but he needs a haircut. He's a former congressman. Peter Meyer actually had a very funny exchange last night with a guy saying that Donald Trump's a fascist and we're all gonna wind up in concentration camps if we're not careful. And Peter Meyer, former Republican member of Congress, actually voted to impeach Donald Trump. And he says, I voted to impeach Donald Trump, and I'm not in a concentration camp. So clearly not a fascist. It's just it's been hilarious to watch the Democrats respond. But Scott Jennings, however, nearly got assaulted live on television the other night, and now they're all coming for him. A far left progressive shoved his hand in Scott Jennings' face, and Scott Jennings, said to get your hand out of my face, but used an F word that I'm not going to play here. And now the Democrats are like, this is justification for firing Scott Jennings. They really don't like that a guy like Scott Jennings has the impact that he does defending Donald Trump's policies. They really can't stand having an articulate Republican on CNN. They think it's their network. And by the way, I should note to you that a lot of people who work inside CNN don't like having Scott Jennings there for that very same reason. They don't like having someone like Scott Jennings who can articulate a defense of Donald Trump. They don't like having on any of these networks that they want them all to be essentially, in their minds, ghettoized to Fox News. Never mind that Fox News is the most watched news network. But in their minds, they don't watch Fox, so it doesn't count. They watch CNN, and they don't want to be subjected to anyone defending Donald Trump on CNN. So Scott Jennings must be ousted. What's his name? Jim Acosta. CNN tried to move him to Midnight, his TV show, and so he quit. And he's out now leading the charge that Scott Jennings needs to be ousted from CNN. If you oust Scott Jennings from CNN, who's going to watch the network? He generates all the buzz. All the buzz at CNN is from Scott Jennings. Conservatives like to watch Scott Jennings proving these people are idiots. I thought it was very notable as well that he, even without the exchange last night that involved the F-bomb, he was getting lectured by Abby Phillips when he started winning the arguments. When Scott Jennings started actually putting points on the board, Abby Phillips had to shut him down. This struggle session with Abby Phillips is the most pernicious show on CNN. It's neither fair nor balanced, and it's essentially But Scott. They should really rename the show from Struggle Session with Abby Phillips to But Scott, because everyone's But Scott, But Scott, But Scott. Trying to stop him. God bless Scott Jennings. He is a man under fire on a daily basis at a network that is hostile to him. When I worked at CNN, I literally would have people come up to me, look around, and then whisper, "I love your show." When I was at Fox, nobody had to whisper. At CNN, it's amazing. All the conservative employees at CNN knew that if they came out as conservatives, it would be bad for them. And that's still the way it is, by the way. I get messages from people who still work at CNN that it's probably even worse today now that they've moved the network completely out of Atlanta. It is completely off the rails. I occasionally still go on CNN, but I have found the only time they want me to come on CNN is when I'm a conservative willing to criticize the president. They got mad at me a couple of weeks ago. I forget what show I was on, but I defended the president, and they didn't expect it, and it discombobulated them, and I haven't been asked back on since then. It's just it's wild to me that the network refuses to acknowledge its biases when the employees in the building behind the scenes are totally willing to know the biases. All right. We got to move on from, but I just, Scott is under fire, and it's not an easy thing to essentially be the lone Trump defender. Peter Meyer does a good job. He's willing to criticize Trump. I mean, that would be my problem if I went on, because I'm willing to criticize everybody. And Scott plays a very good job of being the defender, and he's very good at it. And he knows his role. He plays it. He gets attention for it. And I do think that CNN kind of likes that they get some conservative buzz. Oh, they got Scott Jennings. They can say, we're not biased. We have Scott Jennings. The problem is he's the only one. All right. Now, I need to move on to H-1B visas. A buddy of mine is radicalizing on this issue. I want to read you. Let me pull up my buddy Austin. He has sent me a series of tweets that I am flummoxed by. And now comes word that the Trump administration is beginning an investigation into what's going on. So let me read you this. Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, has posted a notice of intent to hire an H-1B web developer for $80,000, and they claim no American web developer was qualified for the job. But wait, there's more. Lehigh University has just posted a notice of intent to hire an H-1B investment analyst with a salary of $150,000 a year. No American citizen is apparently qualified for the job. I'm finding these postings very interesting. But wait, there's more. Missouri University has posted a job for an H-1B visa strategic communications associate with a salary of $64,000 jobs because they claim no one in America was qualified for the job. You getting the pattern here? We're getting all of these people, all of these colleges and others who are hiring H-1B visas claiming that there are no Americans qualified for the job. What's going on? The governor of Missouri, by the way, has announced that he's going to begin an investigation in Missouri as to why one of its universities would hire a strategic communications associate on an H-1B visa. By the way, the duties of their strategic communications associate are to monitor, create content for, and engage audiences on social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube on behalf of the three units of the university, and create newsletters and other forms of outreach for those university units. An H-1B position is supposed to be a technical specialized talent that you can't otherwise find. And yet, this is what they're going to do. They want an H-1B visa at Emory, at Lehigh University, at Missouri University. Why? Why is there suddenly a pattern of places? Are there not Americans who qualify for the job? The problem is they don't want to pay them what they would have to pay them. They would probably pay them more money if they were an American, and they're trying to get cheap labor. And this is part of the problem with H-1B visas now, is how often are we seeing American companies lay off people and then hire replacements who are H-1B visas? It's remarkable to me that we're seeing this pattern hold up around the country. It's remarkable to me that we're essentially seeing American corporations abusing the H-1B visa process. And by the way, I got to tell you, I support the H-1B visa process. I support it. But I think it's being abused. And I am encouraged that the Trump administration is starting an investigation. Not only that, Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri has disclosed that Immigration Service has approved approximately 100 H-1B visas from 2021 to 2024 at various schools, including for Chief Diversity Officer, Associate Dean of DEI, Head of Gender Justice and Inclusion, Critical Race Studies roles at universities and hospitals associated with those universities in Missouri. He is calling for a more thorough investigation. There's an abuse of the H-1B visa situation. Now, part of what we have to grapple with is that our nation's native population is in decline, and if we're going to preserve the nation, we are going to have immigrants unless Americans start having babies. The left believes we need some sort of massive government social safety net to encourage people to have babies, but in Europe, they have even larger social safety nets for families, and they're having fewer babies. The left says we should do what Europe is doing, but what Europe is doing is not causing people to have children. Those people have given up on society. They're not having kids. The burdens of society, the costs of their social safety network. A buddy of mine, his favorite correlation causation study is that when Americans had smaller houses, they had more kids. We now have bigger houses, so we don't have as many kids. It's a correlation, not a causation thing. But he loves pointing that out. It had nothing to do with the social safety network. It was when parents were in a tiny house together, they somehow found more time to get together and make kids. We do need more kids in this country. We need a higher birth rate in this country, and there has not been a country in modern times to slip below population replacement rate and suddenly rebound without a natural, catastrophic, or war event to do so. And we are slipping below that number. So we gotta find some reason without having a global war or natural disaster to encourage people to get back to having kids. And I don't think the social safety welfare net, expanding it, is what's going to do it, because that's just going to drive up the costs on families with the tax burden and the like. It's not going to happen. And how do I know? Look at Europe. They have even more than us. But we need to do something. And if we don't, we're going to have more and more immigrants coming into this country to take jobs. But I think right now many corporations are abusing the H-1B situation, claiming that, we can't find Americans. There aren't enough. Nah, for these jobs, you could find Americans. You're just not looking for them because you want cheap labor. And the cheap labor abuse of H-1B visas is going to ultimately end that program as legislators get furious with the abuse. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. If you want to be on the program. Coming up, those of you on WSB in Atlanta, you're going to hear my conversation with Chris Carr. The rest of us, I think I'm going to talk about this AI story. Have y'all heard this? I probably do need to spend some time with this in the next hour. So they've run an AI analysis of CT scans. And the AI was able to detect pancreatic cancer in the CT scans even when the doctors and radiologists could not. That they were detecting it earlier in the scans than the human eye could detect it. Could be some profound treatments coming. We'll get into that in the next hour. We got much more to discuss when we come back. Right now, though, I'm gonna probably say this again in the next hour or two, beating a dead horse. I need you to understand, because I'm seeing the worst grifters on the planet attacking Brian Kemp in Georgia, saying that he needs to redistrict Georgia. He says he's not going to. The law does not allow him to. It is well settled, both from the Supreme Court and state law in Georgia, that when an election vote has begun, you cannot suspend the election. The early voting in Georgia has already begun. Now, this is different from Louisiana. Early voting had not begun when Jeff Landry stopped their election. Not only that, Jeff Landry had a specific Supreme Court case saying your districts are unconstitutional, and then a 3-judge panel in Louisiana said you need to stop your election and redraw your districts. That hasn't happened in Georgia. Either the states matter or they don't. And Georgia has different state law from Louisiana, has a different constitution from Louisiana, and there is a Supreme Court precedent from 2006. In that case, Arizona changed its law as the election was underway for voter ID. And the Supreme Court says, wait, you can't do this right now. We're not even going to say whether or not the law is constitutional or not. You can't do it because you're 3 weeks from your election and early voting has already started. You cannot change the rules of an election as the election is underway. And once early voting started in Georgia, the governor could not call a special session and suddenly redraw the legislative lines, because the election is underway. And by the way, the state constitution in Georgia would not allow them to do this either. I'm like, why am I having to argue this with people who aren't election lawyers? And I am. I don't understand it. You're probably not an expert in this, and I actually, believe it or not, am. And you can say I'm arrogant and snotty for telling you I'm an expert in this, but I actually am. I actually helped write a portion of Georgia's election code, and I understand the Supreme Court precedent here. You can't with the early vote, and I think for most of you, you understand this intuitively, but for some of you, because some grifter on the internet that you believe has lied to you and keeps lying to you, they're willing to lie to you again, and you keep believing the lies. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You've been fooled a billion times now, and you keep falling for the same crap. All I'm trying to do is tell you the truth. The governor of the state of Georgia cannot, in the middle of voting, roughly 170,000 votes have already been cast in early voting. Never mind the absentee ballots. The early vote, like 175,000, 150,000, 170,000 votes have already been cast for these districts drawn this way. You can't stop it now. It's unconstitutional. Swiss America wants to help you people. Trust them with precious metals. They've been the nation's trusted leader for 40 years in precious metals. All you have to do is go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. They'll give you their secret war on cash report completely free. Just fill out your information. And likewise, they will also get you any information you need on precious metals, precious metal IRAs and the like. I've bought gold with the gold coins from Swiss America. In fact, they're way more expensive now than they were, thanks to Swiss American and the way gold prices have gone up. SwissAmerica.com/Eric. If you click on their news and views tabs, you'll get bleeding edge information that can help with your investment decisions ahead of your neighbors and friends. You'll have information they don't have yet and be able to make decisions. Knowledge is not power unless you get it ahead of everyone else. And with Swiss America, you get that. SwissAmerica.com/Eric. Sign up with them today. Start a relationship. Get their secret war on cash report. It applies to crypto as well. Find out how you can navigate around it. It'll help on your retirement and savings. SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Sign up with Swiss America today.